Welcome to Reading the Green, a golf and fantasy sports show. My name is Mike with Kyle. On Tuesday, August 20th, this is episode 120, the BMW Championship preview and the FedEx St. Jude Classic recap, but maybe most importantly, a big ol' apology for totally falling off the face of the earth for the last 3 weeks. Kyle, why don't you get us started?
Are we reading the green? You just said it's episode 120. It was kind of touch and go there if we're gonna get back to episode 120 here or not.
How many takes did it take to get through the introduction already? I'm rusty, man.
Which is a first. I don't think I've ever seen Mike redo the intro, and he just did. This is our third take. We'll be transparent with the people here, Mike. That's our third take.
Sometimes life gets in the way, work, family, vacations, lots of other stuff, and it just kind of overlapped the last 3 Tuesdays. And I think with our stuff, it's like if it doesn't happen Tuesday night, it's really hard to ship the product. So we're here, but it's been a weird month.
Yeah, since Jordan isn't here, I think we should just blame him. Really, what it comes down to is there's been nice weather in Minnesota 3 straight Tuesdays. So, yes, Mike might have been on vacation one week. I might have been on vacation one week. It was the Olympics, so who cares about that one? But we've had 3 straight nice Tuesday nights. So Jordan's been out golfing and drinking Coors Lights and leaving us hanging.
Well, yeah, it wasn't like he was saying, "Hey guys, where are you at? I logged on to the call and you guys aren't here." So, all right, but here's the deal, Kyle. We missed 3 weeks. This is the heart of the golf season. If you're a Minnesota resident or you live in the Midwest, like basically mid-July to the end of August is your 6 weeks of prime golf. Golf courses are in great shape. We've had literally the best possible growing season you could possibly have in the state of Minnesota. So every golf course is in perfect shape. And I got a whole bunch of golf stuff to share with you. Like we haven't really talked golf, and I got a lot of cool odds and ends. So what do you want to begin with? Maybe I'll just throw out. I mean, the U.S. Amateur in our backyard just wrap up. What did you catch any of it? You go out there?
I I did not go out there. Should have gone out there. Had some free tickets to go out there, but as we talked about, life's been busy lately and did not make it out. So you're gonna have to give me the quick hits, Mike. All I saw was we had Captain Old Man leading through being the medalist for through 2 days. Representing us 30-year-olds, 30 somethings. We'll just leave it at that. And then from there, what happened?
I mean, I'm sure our listeners saw a lot of the headlines, but yeah, John Ellis, just a dad out of Florida. He actually won the Florida State Am, so it's not like he is, a total nobody, but shows up. And I think this was the first year that the U.S. Amateur has offered qualifying spots for the state amateur champions. So that's never happened before. So I don't know if he otherwise qualified into the U.S. Amateur. I did not follow up on that, but they took, I guess 50 state amateur champions into the field if they were not already qualified. So John Ellis, yeah, wins the medalist honors, and then talks trash at a bunch of college kids about he doesn't get free shit and he bought his gloves at Hazeltine gloves in the pro shop before the round, but he got cleaned up by Ethan Fang in the first round. So that was pretty cool. I always like to see. They play the USAM at Hazeltine, but they do one round of qualifying at the Chaska Town course, which you and I have played a handful of times. It's great value. The price has gotten a little steeper, but it used to be like a $60 golf course when it was first opened, and you couldn't find a course this good for $60. Now even at like $100 or whatever it is, it's always a great value. And so I like to see what the studs can do when they trick that course out. And I remember Billy Horschel, when it was here in 06, shot a 60 out at the town course. I don't think anyone touched that this year, and there were a couple of high scores. So it's kind of cool to see to that course hold its own. I watched a little bit on TV. I did not go out there. The weather was really kind of weird this week in Minneapolis until you got to Sunday. And I woke up on Sunday morning and I was like, gosh, I should take a kid or two out there. This looks like a really great day to go watch the USAM. And then I realized that there's only 4 golfers on the golf course on Sunday. I think they have the consolation match. It's like you're not going to see anything. But the whole deal of people just there's no ropes, there's no even my kid, my 3-year-old's like, Dad, where are the ropes? because it was confusing to see people just like walking in the middle of the fairway on every hole. So
Mhm.
it's a really cool vibe, and it's a bummer I didn't get out there. This 2024. I hope it's nearby again sometime soon because I would like to soak that in at some point.
Yeah, I wish we would have made it out. And actually, I'm glad you brought up Chaska and us playing there, because I had two thoughts. First off, we need to get back out there sometime soon, especially where your playing situation gets worked out. Might as well in the interim. Secondly, do you remember what happened when we played there? There was something unique to that round that day.
I mean, it was hot, and there were some guys that were kind of funny.
Yeah, it was very hot. We got paired up with two randoms that were some fun old men. I had not played since I had returned from a golf trip previously when we went. And this
Mm-hmm.
was probably like July 2nd. It was right on the 4th. And I go to pull the bag out, and when I travel with my traveling bag, I take the driver actually out of my physical bag and tuck it along the side because I don't want that sticking out, right? Yeah, showed up at the course without a driver. Had to play a demo driver out the club shop or the pro shop and played it really well that day.
Sometimes that's what you need, just a little bit of a mix up. But so back at so USAM is won by Arizona State. I don't know what year he was. Jose Luis Ballester wins the USAM. I was pulling for our guy, the Hawkeye. I'm
Me
blanking on his
too.
name
Me
now.
too. I was cheering very
Noah
hard
Kent is
for
his
him.
name? Noah Kent. Um,
I didn't know that what the situation was until you texted about it. I pulled the Jordan completely again.
it's a 36 hole final, and he was down, I think, 4 after the first 18, but he battled back. He got it to 2. He was hanging around, then he lost a couple down the stretch, and push it to the final hole, needing to win the final hole to extend, and Ballester just kind of slammed the door on him. Kent just hit it just long left, short side, but it was cool to see, and I would love to go out to a USAM sometime, and see a lot of the future stars. I played my own version of the USAM at the 2024 Pine to Palm. You want me to tell you about it?
Yeah, I do. I mean, Tommy Tables, Pine to Palm, he loves it. He's waiting to find
I,
out
s- I
what
sent you a
happened.
picture of the new wall of champions that they have on the side of the clubhouse. I haven't played the tournament since 2021, so as far as changes to old Detroit Country Club, nothing really has changed to the golf course all that much. But they had a new wall of champions on the outside, and they had kind of a lot of the big names featured in sort of some stylized font. And Hoagie had a big his name up there on the wall. But I now that they have the mid-am flight, that's my chance to be immortalized in Pine to Palm, is I got to get into that mid-am flight. Unfortunately, I was too lazy this year, and I could only sign up for the championship with the young guns. So um,
What's the age range on the mid-am?
35 and up. So just in a nutshell, the Pine to Palm, this is the 92nd year of the tournament. This tournament's been
Oh,
around for a long time, and it's kind of changed formats over the years, but it's been some tour pros that have won this thing. Tom Lehman, Eric Van Rooyen, Tom Hoagie, John Trasmar, the Van Rooyen's friend that passed away recently from cancer. A lot of big names that have won the Pine to Palm over the years, but it's the same format as the USAM. 2 days of stroke play qualifying, top 64 out of about 200 players in the championship flight will qualify for a 64-person bracket. The next 48 after those 64 will be split into their own consolation brackets just to kind of fill out the week. And then around that flight is your mid-am and your senior and your super senior. And then they have an open division that I think it's one round of qualifying. I think the cut was 85 and the low was probably 71. And so they split those in as well. So even Kyle, you could show up and shoot an 85 and you could be playing match play.
yeah, because 85 is in my it's in my repertoire right now.
It might be in a couple
Yeah.
years, but
Well,
um,
I feel like I could pull it out, but it's I'm not going to bet on it. How about that?
my expectations were extremely low. I didn't count. This is probably the 15th year I've played in this golf tournament, so I know the course and the conditions very well. Um, My expectations were low, seeing as my 10th round of golf of the year was the first round of the golf tournament. So having any idea what I was going to do under pressure and or real conditions was unknown. I opened with a 71.
Nice, Mike. Very
Opened
nice.
with a 71. Yeah, no complaints. 4 birdies, 4 bogeys. But that's kind of where the good plays stopped. I fouled it up with a 75, which I would have been fine if I would have shot 275s. The only problem was the cut was +3 for 2 rounds on a par 71. So these kids are freaking good. The last time I played in the golf tournament in 2021, I shot +5 in the qualifying and I was in the field clean. This year I missed the 64 person field completely at 4 over. So
Oh
um,
wow.
I don't think the kids are getting any worse. So you got to bring your A game. But I was happy to get into the first consolation bracket. I did 3 putt 18, by the way, to miss that cut. So
I wasn't gonna bring that up. You might have texted that. I was just gonna let that be. Let
yep,
that
I
have
did.
do your thing, Mike.
But it's like any of these things. That's the shot that sticks with you, but it's a lot of shots over the course of 36 holes. But I made on this golf course, which is you're supposed to make a lot of birdies, is 6,200 yards. Between that second round of qualifying and I won my next match and I lost my second round match, I made 2 birdies in 3 rounds.
A lot of pars, but pars
A
to
lot of
win.
pars. Yeah, pars to win. I made a timely birdie coming down the stretch, but yeah, a lot of pars to win. Just putter went cold, so that you can't do that on a short golf course. You can't make 1 birdie, 2 birdies in 3 rounds. So, but I had a lot of fun. It was nice to be back, and I think I got over the hump with the family of like, hey, we're gonna have this week, cabin, family, extended family. It's gonna be a lot of fun for the kids. Dad's gonna play golf sometimes, and so we'll get that mid-am division. It'll be a little better.
So who took down the title this year? Is there someone we should be looking out for in a couple of years?
Well, a
You
couple of a
mentioned
couple.
the
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
mm-hmm. The winner. Actually, let me start with the runner-up. So there's a couple of guys that play on the Edina high school golf team, Torger and Sander O. These guys are pretty good, but Torger made it into the final in here. I'm just gonna pull up. I don't remember the gentleman's name that ended up winning the championship.
I-
Josh Galvin out of Maple Grove. I don't know. Do you got a story on him?
well, I Torger has finished runner up back-to-back years. I noticed.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah. And the year after Tommy Tables won in 2009, which doesn't seem like that long ago, but is a long time ago, he was runner up the next year. Oh.
Really? What?
Mhm.
No. All right,
Yeah,
we're gonna need we're gonna
2010,
fact check.
2010 runner up.
Torger's in high school.
No, Tom Hoagie.
Oh, he won and he finished runner up.
Yeah, yes.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah. So good stuff. Pine to Palm. It's a great week, and anyone in the Minnesota area. I know we have some listeners that play in the field as well. Um, Anyone that's in the area should check out this. It's part of a 3 weekend resort circuit in which you have the Birchmont, in Bemidji, Minnesota, the Resorters in Alexandria, and then the last weekend is the Pine to Palm and Detroit Lakes. Pine to Palm is the biggest of the 3, but kind of a fun summer of golf for people in the northern Minnesota, North Dakota area. Um, I got a couple other things before we get to pro golf, just real quick. You got anything to say? We've had a lot of talk about wedges. Did you order some new wedges, Kyle?
I haven't yet.
Okay.
Probably going to be a winter project at this point in time. I'm done tinkering for the years. We talked about at length about the whole lesson thing. So I just was like, you know what? I'm not going to put a new set of wedges in play right now. I maybe got 3, 4 rounds left this year, hopefully more, but I have 3 scheduled as of now. So I'm going to hold off. But the thought is so I have right now, I have a pitching wedge, I have a sand wedge, and I have a 60. And I have too many distance gaps and with that distribution, right? So pitching wedge, 52, 58, maybe? Is that you went 54, 58, right?
I carry a pitching wedge 52, 56, and 60.
Okay.
But I do think, as I was explaining, I do think that for the average player, I am more inclined to think that the 54-58 setup, especially if you want to carry a 3-wood and a 3 hybrid and a 4 hybrid, or and a 3-wood and a 5-wood, like you want more options at the top of your bag. You can't carry 4 wedges. I do think that 54-58 setup is really good because you can hit a lot of the same shots around the green with the 58 than you can with the 60, and you'll basically kind of cover those gaps a little better at the bottom of your bag. Or unless you're like Jordan and you carry a 48-degree gap wedge because your irons are so strong that your gap between your pitching wedge and your sand wedge is at 48 degrees. But I think the bigger problem, Kyle, you have is that your lob wedge has instructions stamped on it that say do not hit over 40 yards.
It does. It says, I wish I had it right here to see the exact words. It's not exact words. It says 40 yards or less, I believe. But hey, when you picked up your 60 degree, as I might have, I'm not going to say for certain. I might have been 18 years old when I bought that at Dunham Sports in Spencer, Iowa. But yeah, I think I'm due for new wedges.
Leave it at that. Before we talk about professional golf, you want to pour one out for Country Club Snob?
I didn't follow him as much as I think maybe even you did, but he did pop up from time to time, and all of a sudden he's gone. He's disappeared.
For the audience members that are not familiar with the Twitter meme account Country Club Snob, at Eldrick Hose, I don't really get it other than the Eldrick part and the hose part, I guess, but the Country Club Snob meme account was shut down abruptly after he had supposedly been outed by someone that he had victimized on social media. And his whole bit was to rip apart anything that anyone did that resembled what I think his favorite adjective was, a mid-club behavior. So if you wore golf shoes that looked like sneakers, or you paid less than $10,000 a year to play golf, or you could only play golf on Saturdays, or you had to ask your partner if playing golf was okay, or you played in a weeknight league. All of those things resembled very mid golfers. And so
he went out there, TV in the locker room or the grill.
yeah, there's a lot of stuff. And like some of the bits were funny. Some of them were just like, this is everybody, dude. Like, it's not, who cares? And I guess a few people took it quite seriously and figured him out. So, RIP, Country Club Snob.
It was actually the assistant pro from his club, by the way.
Flew a little too close to the sun.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I may have heard that it was something like he really got on tattoos on the golf course or something like that. And this assistant pro had tattoos and then just like, yeah, figured him out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyways, all right, let's do it. Let's talk about beer. And then we'll talk about PGA Tour. Did you go grab something?
I do. I have a new one for us. I wanted to change it up since it's been a while, right? I've Venn Brewing, South Minneapolis finest, Basic Decency. It is just a basic pale ale for decent people. I like it. Just nice and simple.
I feel like I have the opposite end of the spectrum when it comes to pale ales. I have Flip Flops and Wheelies from Junkyard, a New England style pale ale with mosaic hops.
Let's just look at the juxtaposition of cans here. Plain black, white letters, and then
a dude with
somebody
no
on
shoe.
Something designing that one.
Riding a dirt bike saying, "Woo, mosaic!"
Yeah.
I did already drink a 12-ouncer of Radiant Haze from Toppling Goliath. I like when you get those 12-ounce beers that you like that you could drink, at any time. I had to pick up the 12-pack of that.
I'm with it. I did have a pre-pod as well. Local 755 from Blackstack. So
there you go. Well, Kyle, since we've been busy, I guess, how much of the FedEx St. Jude did you watch?
probably about 4 swings of the golf club, which is probably about the least amount of golf I've watched all year. That's very sad to say, but it's just a fact.
Getting to that time of the year, school's right around the corner. It's just a
Yeah.
lot of stuff going on. But Hideki Matsuyama ends up winning, which I think after Friday and after Saturday, we would assume this would have been the case. But there was about a 30-minute stretch after he coughed up a 5-shot lead going into Sunday that he was not leading, and he only had 3 holes to play.
So I had to go to a little kid's birthday party at about 4 o'clock on Sunday, and someone from our one and done league that had Decky as their pick last week texted me, "Oh no, Decky, what are you doing?" And then this is getting intense. Crap, and then like no sweat. Like, so I did not see. I just saw those 4 texts in a row. So that was quite the roller coaster for me to kind of live vicariously through that.
Yeah, pretty wild. I was trying to follow along on the scoreboard and the PGA Tour app, but he makes a costly double, I think, on 14 or 15, and then bounces back and birdies 17 and 18 coming in to end up winning by 2. And it looked like Xander lipped out a chip at the last hole to get to, I think, minus 17, and Vic as well had missed a short putt that would have got him into the clubhouse lead as well. So it was pretty dramatic after I think a lot of people just kind of rolling their eyes and expecting Hideki to go out and just coast to an easy win. He moves up, I think, to number 3 in the FedEx Cup standings after this win, which the standings I thought were fascinating as you're kind of looking at the field. And I was really surprised that a guy like Chris Kirk, I know we love Chris Kirk because he's one of our big Calcutta guys, was first round leader, by the way. That didn't really. That's why I was like, why are we talking about this on Thursday? Like let me know on Saturday afternoon if I'm going to have a sweat. Chris Kirk was like 28 in the FedEx Cup standings, and he's had a pretty meaningless year outside of his win at the Century.
Century. Century, and then he had a decent January, February, and up to the Masters. I feel like he was okay, but he's been awful this summer.
So, but this is the Scotty Xander effect, is it not? It effectively,
sure,
they gobbled up all of the FedEx Cup points for the year, especially in the big events. And so I think that just getting a win and getting those 500 points just allowed some guys to coast, even like a guy like Jake Knapp, coast into the top 70 because no one else was getting points. I mean, I think the difference, you have Scotty is almost 2,000 points ahead of Xander going into the FedEx St. Jude. Xander is almost 2,000 points ahead of Rory. And then Rory, 2,000 points down, is like 95th on the list. So a bunch of guys got bunched up after spot number 3.
Yeah. And right down the stretch, right? Didn't wasn't there like a 3-person swing right on the end? Like Tom Kim doubled down the stretch to fall out.
He finished 6-6-6 to finish in 51st or 52nd. That was one of my bits here, is that he absolutely choked down the stretch to end his season. The other guy, I'm curious if he ever plays professional. I mean, he will play professional golf again because he has exemptions, but we may have seen the last of Jordan Spieth. Dunks 2 balls in the water on 18, walks off the golf course, immediately goes and gets wrist surgery.
Yeah, he'll be back. His Spieth. Did you see, and I may be jumping to one of your bits here, the Keegan Bradley, Billy Horschel phone call when they were telling him hey, with Tom Kim and I think Mackenzie Hughes still out there, you're projecting to be in, and they immediately go to catering conversation on the PGA.
No.
I think the PGA Tour comms or something tweeted it. He's like, oh, sweet. Yeah, good. He was like, are me and Scotty good? Yeah, all right, yeah. Apparently they all 3 took the PGA together.
Sure.
Denver. And what? Oh, I got catering handled. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say I was thinking Billy Ho for Ryder Cup vice captain.
I think it was Keegan and Billy Ho. I forget who was on the phone for sure.
That might
Yeah.
be a good
Yeah.
and he already picked Snedeker. I think Snedeker picked up a vice captain spot. I'm kind of thinking Billy Ho might be a good spot there.
For sure.
Um,
For sure.
Otherwise, our power index looking pretty good last week. All over a couple of names that did all right. I had plenty of Hideki, but we also had Hideki 98 on our power index. We also had obviously Scotty, Vic, Wyndham Clark putting together a decent week. So a couple of even Patrick Cantlay doing all right. So I ended up with a pretty good week for DFS wise. The only problem was something sold me on this guy named Max Grazerman that had just coughed up a win at the Wyndham. And my God, he sucked last week. He was almost as bad as Max Homa.
See, the last 2 weeks, when we don't pod, I don't play near as much, right? So I think I did RTG and like one other contest. There was not a lot of effort on my end.
Sure.
So whatever. I'm ready this week, fully in, ready to go, DFS.
Well, if you are, I guess we got a couple things we got to hit. We got to hit a couple of the housekeeping items on the FedEx St. Jude. So tournament winner, obviously, Decky at -17. Our top contributor was Spencer Aguiar with Hideki, Vic, Wyndham Clark, and Ludwig. Gutsiest play, Denny McCarthy, that came from Al Hunter over at Fantasy Labs Cash Plays. Do you have one and done up? I was gonna go through landmines.
I'm fully locked and loaded. Fully locked and loaded.
All right, where are we at with one and done? Because I don't even know if I'm still in the mix.
We still have some drama here. So leading the way still is Champles. It did consolidate a little bit last week. We have A Dingus in second, Breakfast Ball in third, JD Gopher, Jordan, unfortunately in fourth, Stogie in fifth, and Book in sixth. Mike, you're in seventh. So I did some calculations here, and I believe all the way down to 12th place still has a shot at money. If they can hit a solar winner, and of course other people ahead of them get. So for example, I'm in 11th. I would have to hit a solo winner and have Breakfast Ball, go for JD, Stogie, or Book. Anywhere from 20th to the higher place people end up like with a 33rd. So we still have 13 people in play. Which includes all three of us from this. So Mike, you still got plenty of chance. We got 3.6 up top this week, 2.16 the second, 1.3 to third, and then it gets under $1 million at four. So you're gonna need some winners. And unfortunately, that has not been my forte this year. I was curious, so I went back and looked. Of course, everyone hit a Scotty winner, great, grand, glorious. I have 5 second places and 3 fifth places.
Wow.
5 seconds, just so close. And really last week, and I should have led with this, my apologies. We did have a couple winners last week. We had Breakfast Ball, Iowa State Cyclones, Jake K, and Sippy all hit Hideki for the 3.6. And then we had Jordan still had Xander. Why did Jordan still have Xander left?
I don't know.
And then Alex also both took home the 1.7 for Xander. So yeah, a lot still at play this week, Mike. And choose wisely, sir, because you're right there.
As you were adding up your top finishes, I have two wins, 2 seconds, and a third. So really not that much. But I have 27 made cuts on the year, which is the most in the pool. And so I know that making cuts is not the path to success in one and done. You got to hit winners, but it's kept me afloat. It's kept me in the mix, I suppose. So
yeah, you must have a lot of That eighth,
Good.
that stretch of second, first, second, that was a nice little stretch there.
Well,
The Doug Gim Sepp Straka the last 2 weeks, Mike, did not get it done for you.
I would say I was swinging, and I was not necessarily locked in, but I got a real good pick for this week, and I need your help because the BMW Championship has left its comfortable Chicagoland mix of golf courses plus a little bit of Pennsylvania, New York, and is heading out to Colorado to play at a golf course called Castle Pines, which the PGA Tour has not been to since 2006 when it hosted the International Golf Tournament, which was a modified Stableford event that was normally played opposite the Accenture Match Play event. And sorry, let me see. It was not that was not correct. It was played opposite the might have been played opposite the British Open, somewhere in there. But what are we doing at Castle Pines? I mean, the last person to win here was Dean Wilson in 2006. Nobody's got any data on this place.
It is interesting. I would like to know a little bit more about the background of how we got here, as you mentioned, and we've kind of been in this rotation of Chicagoland golf courses or roughly Wilmington to Baltimore area golf courses. We did have the one-off here in 2014 where they played at Cherry Hills Country Club in the Denver area. So I guess maybe some correlation there for the BMW Championship. But overall, really, I'm kind of looking forward to it just because it's different. It's different than what we see on a weekly basis. We'll have some elevation changes. It plays at 8,130 yards, but yes, it's at altitude. It's over a mile high, obviously. And then with the elevation changes, maybe plays closer to 7,300. It is a Jack Nicklaus design course, which from a golf strategy standpoint, some of the golf sickos out there don't necessarily love the Jack Nicklaus design courses, but it's a beautiful piece of property, beautiful views. I'm excited to watch it on TV. 10 water hazards, 77 bunkers. The rough, they've grown out to 4 inches this week. They have multi-tiered greens that are running very fast from everything we've seen from a practice round perspective, 13 on the stemp. And the current superintendent came from Muirfield Village. So it's going to look beautiful. It's going to be a challenge, I think. But it's a little bit of a puzzle. I think you're going to want good putters. I think you're going to want good all-around players. I don't think you have to be long because it is going to play shorter with the elevation and the altitude changes. From what I saw a little bit in the boots on the ground, I would check out Matt Gannon. He's actually out there this week, one of our contributors we like to follow. It does look like you can get in some trouble off tee, but the driver can be a weapon just like any other week. So it is going to be a little bit of a puzzle, but hopefully that gives you some idea maybe of what we're looking at for a course we don't see very often, if ever.
I have seen versions of this golf course back in the Lynx 386 days. I believe you were a Lynx player back on the old PC, maybe in the late 90s, early 2000s.
I don't know if I ever did.
Didn't we have this conversation like 2 or 3 years ago? I thought we did. Castle
I think
Pines
you're
is one of the-
confusing. I think that was Jordan, not I.
It might have been Jordan. The area looks like it's grown up a bit. Lots of houses on the golf course. I'm looking at the overheads on the old Google Maps. Lots of houses on the golf course. And the other thing is, first of all, this golf course is clocking in at 8,100 yards. The tees and greens don't look all that close together. Like, I guess they've done a decent job of connecting tee to green, but the holes don't run next to each other. They are through the houses and surrounding area. So this is going to be a tough walk. And that's the thing that I'm really curious about is how much just physical, and these guys are all professionals, I get it, but how much physical fitness is going to play a role in being able to, one, walk an 8,100-yard golf course, something that's got a little bit of space from tee to green, and it's also at altitude. Like, I don't think we can just ignore the amount of fitness required to make it around the golf course. I can barely walk around a 6,200-yard golf course at sea level and not be sore the next day.
Great point on. I hadn't looked from the distance between holes, but holy cow. This would not be a great spectator golf course. That's for sure.
Absolutely not. Like, there's no chance you can't. Like, there's like 2 spots where you could go to sit and watch a few holes, but if you get out in some of these corners, like you're like a mile from the clubhouse.
This is the dreaded double OB.
Yeah,
yeah. I think that's a good point. I think people are going to be thrown off by the 8,200 yards this week if they don't do much research into actually what these holes look like and holes play. Like, for example, there's one of the par threes that's 203 yards, but with a downhill and the elevation, it's actually going to play under 150 possibly, depending on where the pen's at. So I think people are going to get caught up in the distance view this week, but I don't think it's all going to be about that. So
are calculators allowed? So you can do your 10% subtraction on distances?
That's a great question. You just, hey, the best caddies win. I was maybe leaning away from Scotty because of the fast greens, the multi-tier, and just, Scotty putting. But maybe Ted Scott's the X factor this week.
Well, you want to take us through the model? We got, the contributor content at the end of the summer here has been really underwhelming, but we got what we got, and so there's a couple of names I guess we'll talk about.
Yeah, and I guess we can't complain, right? Because we've been a party to that the last couple of weeks as well. So far, leading the way, Mike, you brought up this guy earlier, and I going to really struggle to click this name, but our Max Grazerman is leading the way in mention share so far, 58%. But very not great on the MPI. Just scrolling over from some of the guys I've mentioned him so far: Landon Selensky, Alex Hunter, John Hasselbauer, Lee Aldrich, Len Hochberg. So he is offering quite the salary savings, 6,900. With he's had some good form lately, but really concerned about making that click this week if that $6,900 guy is going to come in with massive ownership. But right behind him, you have Xander coming in at 11.4, 83% MPI at this point. And then Taylor Pendrith and Willie Z, good to see him popping back up a little bit, 42% mention share, are our top 4 on the board. Right behind them, Patrick Cantlay, Bobby Mack, and Scotty at 33% mention share, and all pretty solid on the MPI so far.
I think I probably undersold Max's weekend last week at the FedEx St. Jude. I thought he finished lower than T33. T33 would have been middle of the pack. He did open with a 75 plus 5, but then he went 68, 70, 63. And I'm going to guess that you put that on the back of his second place finish at the Wyndham, his second place finish at the 3M, his T13 at the Barracuda, and his T21 at the Scottish Open. Hasn't missed a cut since the RBC before the US Open. He finished T21 at the US Open. He's actually done everything right. Little shaky on approach at times, but everything right the last 6 weeks of the golf season. And he shot one bad round at the FedEx St. Jude and really bounced back nicely. He kills it off the tee, and he can gain on putting. He can easily have a 5 or 6 strokes gain putting week. I agree with you that at $6,900, I was hoping that his finish was a little worse last week to bury some of that ownership, but he could easily be 20% owned this week.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot. But that was quite the sales pitch. As I continue to dig in this week on what we find out about the course, especially from some of the boots on the ground, I think he needs to be on your radar. I don't think it's an auto click because of that ownership, but he needs to be on your radar.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we get ownership loaded in from our buddy Rick Gaiman at some point here, because I think that's not that at times it does seem to miss a little bit, but I'd like to get a sense of where someone like Grazerman's going to be. Who else? So who do you like out of those first couple names you read off? Like, You got a favorite? Let's start at the stud level. Like, do you got one or two names you take at 9,500 plus?
Right. It's really hard to go away from Xander, right? T2 last week, he was ninth at the Olympics, obviously won the Open, 15th at the Genesis, 13th at Travelers, 7th at the US Open, 8th at the Memorial, and then wins the PGA. So those, and then second at Wells Fargo. So those are his last 10 starts. Just at playing ridiculous golf. If he loses anywhere, I mean, he lost around the greens at the Travelers and still finished T13, has been a phenomenal putter. And I think just because there could be some trickiness to the greens this week with the undulation and the speed and just some nuances of being at elevation, I think I'm going to put a little bit more emphasis on putting and just, yeah, I struggle to go with Xander. I think he's the place to start. He is 11-4. You save $1,000 off Scotty, and I think that's my first click.
I think you're right with the savings on Xander, $1,000 less than Scotty. I do think that the thing that can easily neutralize difficult greens, big greens, multi-level greens, is great approach play, because if you can get yourself into the right quadrant, you can kind of save, you end up like not having to hit these 50-foot putts across multiple levels, which I don't want any part of Scotty if he's going to have 50-foot putts across multiple levels. But that being said, like, it's $1,000 less on Xander. That feels like an absolute no-brainer. Again, I'm curious how much the market reacts from an ownership standpoint. I am intrigued to go even $1,000 down from Xander to Ludwig, which again, I feel like when I have these courses that feel tailor-made for Ludwig, ton of length off the tee, smash driver in the middle of the fairway, highly accurate, gaining on approach in literally every round this year outside of the API. But then when I feel like I have a course that's tailor-made for Ludwig, he goes and misses the cut, like at the PGA, and it feels and usually that's because he putts like crap. So I'm interested in those stat profiles: Scotty, Xander, Ludwig, guys that can't miss with their irons. And so I could be even mixing in any two of those three guys.
I think you're talking about the stat profiles. I think that's going to be key this week. Is I think you kind of just have to pick your lane and go for it, right? And hope you're right. So, for example, a build you could look at would be a Xander, Denny McCarthy, Christian Bezuidenhout, guys that have that high end ability with the putter that can, well, in Denny's case, can have a good approach week from time to time. Just hope you catch one, but then like go that profile, right? Guys that can pop an approach and are good putters, or you could go the you could go Ludwig, Rory, more distance route. We could go Colin route with, more of the Colin Will, I guess, more heavy iron play. But I think that makes sense here, just given the unknowns. And I like pivoting this week too, just because people are going to be making guesses on how this course is going to play. So pick a lane, go with it, and just, skill stack.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to have a skill stack in the RTG league this week, and it's going to be guys that don't look like they smoked cigarettes their entire life. So I'm going to be staying away from Bobby Baaack. I'm going to be staying away from Taylor Pendrith. I'm going to stay away from Wyndham Clark. I don't know if he smoked cigarettes. Feels like he did a lot of other drugs. Like these guys that I don't think can make it around an 8-mile golf course.
I like it. I like it.
I want the young, strapping athletes that are going to be able to have the stamina for 4 rounds. So I got to do some thinking on this.
You're taking a stand. That's the point, right? You're just taking a stand and go with it and go from there.
Anyone else here? So, are there a couple other spots in the model here that are worth mentioning? I mean, did you get down? We didn't get down. I mentioned Ludwig being at the top of the power index at the moment. I've seen a lot of takes on fading Thagala this week. I mean, we got him down at the bottom of our model, but just you can't be wild on this golf course off the tee. And as you said, you double OB. Like this is it's cut through the houses and through the trees. This isn't going to be sprayed all over the place. You need guys that are going to smash it down the middle of the fairway.
Yeah, you mentioned Sahith. I think, like I mentioned, check out Matt Gannon's feed. In the practice round today, I think he went double OB.
Yeah, yeah. Trying to find a couple other names here that are worth
What
mentioning.
about Justin Thomas?
What about Justin Thomas? Are there
I
things
mean,
that you like about his game
he
right now? I'll tell you.
he's only 8,400. He's only got the pretty low on the mentions so far standpoint, but Andy Lack did mention maybe he's somebody we want to take a look at. You look at his finishes after being cut at the US Open, he did pop up with a T5 at the Travelers, T62, 31, 30th, so kind of middling. But this week with the small field, I think you're just going to be looking for those leverage opportunities. And, you know, he's been neutral on approach, mostly neutral off the tee, but good around the green. So if you're kind of leaning into that this week, maybe you can have that 2.3 strokes gain like you did at the Open, or 1.5 like you did at the Genesis. And he's been good around the greens and did gain 3.2 last week at FedEx St. Jude. I don't know. I'm grasping at straws, but if you're trying to find somewhere to get a little different, maybe JT. Never that. I don't think that statement has ever worked out for me, but
um, Let me give you just a really basic model here. I'm curious because the course comp that I've seen, um, most strongly correlated, at least what we're suspecting, is Augusta National. Big green complexes, multi-layered, undulated. You got to hit it long and straight at the golf course. So as you would expect, guys in this field that have played well at Augusta, Scotty, Collin, Russell Henley, Ludwig hasn't played that much at Augusta, but has been played very well. Obviously, Xander, Hideki, even Vic. I think that's in Zalatoris. So you look at the top of our model between Schauffele, Zalatoris, Scheffler, Ludwig. Those are guys that I'm going to probably lean pretty heavily on with those Augusta comps and try to find some differentiation elsewhere.
I was gonna do the same thing, try to throw up a very quick model, and did it correlate pretty well with what you were seeing there?
Yeah, I mean, I think the names that sneak in that I am not seeing the RTG model correlate yet, Tommy Fleetwood. Corey Connors obviously has a very strong Augusta track record. I don't know that I love Bobby Mack this week. Same reason I don't love Shane Lowry this week. Are they going to be able to get around the golf course? I'm not going to give that one up. Even like a Jason Day, I don't know I'm going to lean that hard on Jason Day. So
Mike's going to the all fitness play.
I think you have to. I think you got to be in your I think you're going to have to be in your 20s, and you're going to have to be. You might have to be under 200 pounds.
You're not going to hear that take anywhere else. I like it.
Have you ever played golf at altitude? I should have asked this earlier.
Arizona, I guess, would probably be. I don't know what's Phoenix at.
Depends on where you are. Phoenix is probably that high.
Scott is
3,000.
Yeah,
2,000.
I suppose that's probably, unless northern Minnesota is higher. So no, is the answer.
I played one round of golf at Banff Springs in Banff at the course there at the Fairmont. It was really cool. It definitely felt the 10% distance gain. And at that point in time, this was 12 years ago. I mean, hitting it 275 was pretty solid. It was no sweat hitting it over 300 with all that 12-year-old equipment. So you definitely felt. The other thing too, and I based on where Castle Rock is, I don't know if it's not like right in the mountains, but playing in Banff, it was so cool hitting your ball to where it couldn't get over the horizon, because the horizon was these huge mountain peaks that are right in the golf course. And so you're hitting these balls that go up just sort of against the mountain backdrop and come down. It was really, really something. Mountain golf, I have not done a lot of, but that was a really cool experience. Anyone else you want to highlight on the model for this week? I mean, I feel like we're kind of all over the place, but I do think we see a resurgence of our Schauffele, Scheffler, and then gosh, if Zalatoris is going to get in the mix here, I was a little surprised on Willie Z, to be honest, even being in the FedEx St. Jude.
Yeah, that's a good
Can you
point.
can you explain how I mean, I would have to go back. I probably should just go back and look at some of his finishes early in the year, but I'm actually surprised that we're looking at Zalatoris. I mean, he was cut at the Wyndham, cut at the Open, cut at the Genesis, withdrew from the Rocket Mortgage, cut at the U.S. Open. Like he had a nice stretch early in the year where he was 13th at the Farmers, second at the Genesis, fourth at the Arnold Palmer, and ninth at the Masters. Like
That
I
had
was saying,
carried. Yeah,
that's probably enough. And fourth at the Genesis, that's probably that's the previous year. He hasn't played very many golf tournaments in 2023.
going
Um,
back.
it probably enough to grab enough FedEx Cup points in the signature events and just carry him through an awful back half of the summer. So,
Yeah,
um,
and then just looking at this, I mean, is there any way you're clicking Will this week? Yes, he was only 6,800 and with T12 last week, but coming off cut to
I
cut withdrawal,
absolutely am. If he's 5-6% owned, absolutely clicking Will Zalatoris.
I don't think he'll be. I think people love Will, me included, and they'll want to get back on the train
Yeah,
quick, right? Like you go back and
I would
look
have.
at, you know, Farmers. He was T13. And then right after that jumps up to 14, 15, 18%. Then he missed the cut players at 18%.
The this is the problem with a 50-person field is that ownership is going to be out of whack. So when
Mhm.
I say 5-6%, getting Will Zalatoris at 15% is probably more realistic because you're going to see guys like Xander and Scotty at 40%. Um,
Sure, sure.
Will at 7,000, I think Will at 8,000 or so probably would have driven down some of the ownership, but I think you're right, 7,000. Him and Grazerman are going to be super chalky.
I think the last thing I want to hit on, Mike, is so yeah, 50% field this week. How big a player pool will you look at? Do you think you gotta try to keep it tight with like a 15 player pool? Yeah.
Yeah, I suspect and I will probably do some builds after the show here. Part of me is trying to figure out like what contests I'm going to enter, and I typically the big cash games I typically have struggled in when you have a small field with no cut, because I think the advantage of our model is to set a high floor with made cuts, and so we usually clean up in those big cash games. In the normal PGA Tour events. So I'm probably going to go to, like you said, a 15, how small a pool I can get in a 20 max and run a model against that for 20 lineups. It probably will be 12 to 15 players. Super tight, probably crush our power index and see if I can get 20 lineups together.
I like it. Yeah, I'm curious. I normally, like you said, I kind of go away from the GPPs in weeks like this a little bit, but um, we need to get back in. We need to go fully back in. I'm back. Let's go.
Well, with that, Kyle, I don't have a name game together. It was just that was we already put a whole show together. We didn't have a name game. I know we need to close that out, but I have. Do you have a betting card? Because I have one other topic for you to close out the show.
I don't have a betting card either. Like
Okay.
it's just this week. I just flew back from Texas this evening. Uh, not but haven't been in a betting state in the last 3 days, unfortunately.
I'm surprised this wasn't the A topic, but DraftKings Rainmakers is dead.
Yes. Yes, Mike. That's very impactful for you.
I was dealing with so let me just in 60 seconds set the landscape here. Very abruptly on what I think was July 26th, July 27th, somewhere in there, DraftKings sent out a notice that the Rainmakers game across the board, all sports, would end immediately due to what we have now understood to be legal situations that they have, I think, in the state of Pennsylvania, and they would be offering an option for customers to relinquish their game pieces, although this has become a little clearer to me. Relinquish their game pieces in turn for a payout that they will magically come up with based on some formula, based on the quality of your collection, and so on and so on. So we all got some number, and that was paid out, and I guess
I'm
we all
not
should be
happy with the
happy with
number
it.
for the record.
Yeah, but it's kind of a bummer because it was a lot of work to put together 300-400 cards, or for a lot of people even more. Every week it was kind of a lot of work to do that, but it was becoming a pretty good consistent source of DraftKings income for a while. Now that I'd elevated to the rare level and all that, and I guess shouldn't be surprised. This stuff is all cut off in the NFTs, unregulated securities. Like this, should be surprised, but it's the rug pull of rug pulls. And as I think I texted to you, Rugger's gonna rug.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. The whole, more about the unregulated and the whole NFT game and stuff than I do. Completely agree. It did feel like a pyramid scheme kind of from the start to an extent. That being said, as you said, it became a nice source of income for me every week. And I didn't play, I just played at the course, not the race like you. But I could just take my best lineup every week and throw it in the GTD contest and know I was going to win $5 to $20 every week. So that was nice.
There's a lot of conversation that the game was not supported from DraftKings in a way that fulfilled on the promise of what the game was, in that it didn't feel like they were really offering a fair opportunity for people to recoup the investments that they were making, and that it was sort of all at the discretion of DraftKings. That we always said this, they're literally making it up as they go along.
For
And
sure.
that is the nature of 99.9% of NFT backed projects, that they are made up as they go along. And at any point, the administrator of the project decides they don't want to do it. They don't do it, and they pull the rug out, and everyone's left with crap. It just was surprising to see it happen from an enormous sports book that has sort of a lot riding on its credibility to continue expanding into new markets and offering new products and all that. And so I was a little surprised in that regard, but obviously whatever they ran into legally in Pennsylvania must have been big enough for them to say whole thing's got to come down across the board, nationally, across every sport.
Yeah, and expose themselves to further risk, right? You had to sign that sure to collect your payment, but that at the
I
messing up
talked to my
at the end of
attorney.
the day.
I talked to my
Yeah.
attorney. I said, like, is this really going to hold up in court? And my attorney said, it probably will. But are you really going to spend your time trying to chase a class action lawsuit to like scrape together another $50 or something like that? Like, it's like, it wasn't really worth it. Plus, I was playing a position from I was already ahead. Like, I already been paid out all this money, and I was already up multiple X on my total investment. So it was like, if I'm one of these guys that has spent 20 grand piecing together legendary game pieces, and I'm 15 grand in the hole, of course I'm pissed. But that wasn't me. So I took the payout, and I just let's just move on.
So at the last thing I want to hit on is the payout didn't seem to be based on your portfolio to an extent, like which individual cards. Is how many cards you had in each classification relative to the potential you could win for the rest of the year that were available in those game ranges.
I think
right?
that's probably right. Yeah. And so it's I don't know if that's a lesson learned. I'm just kind of bummed because it was nice to make the few bucks week to week, and it was starting to create a flywheel. But here we go. For any of the sickos out there that are playing DraftKings Rainmakers at this point, you probably already claimed your payout. And I have been informed that I can pull all of my game pieces into a digital wallet, and I can keep them if I want. So there we go. Well,
yeah. Anyway,
yeah, we'll leave it at that. You can find Reading the Green on our YouTube channel with new episodes previewing each PGA Tour golf tournament when we don't have overlapping vacations and other madness happening in the month of August. And of course, on every major podcast platform, on Twitter at RTG Podcast DFS. We promise we will be back in a week with the results of the BMW Championship and preview the last event of the PGA Tour season, the Tour Championship. So yeah.